Before modern factories and machines, Indian craftsmen were forging iron with astonishing precision. Imagine a time when molten iron shaped kingdoms, agriculture, and warfare. Ancient India wasn't just using metals, it was engineering the future. Welcome to Engineering and Technology in IKS, Metalworking and Iron Age in India. Let's explore the forgotten technological marvels of Indian's Iron Age. How did ancient Bharat become a global center of metallurgy and engineering? So without any further delay, let's begin today's class and let's get to deep into the engineering artifacts and engineering marvels of the ancient India. Introduction to the metalworking. The art and science of shaping, refining, and transforming metals into functional and decorative objects. From ancient forges to precision workshops, metalworking has driven human civilization for millennia, and ancient India stood at its forefront. What were the types of metal that were used in ancient metallurgy? Some of the very famous metals were copper, which was pure. The properties are malleable and conductivity, primarily used for tools and vessels. Bronze, mixture of copper and tin, hard, corrosive resistant, used in weapons and sculptures. Brass, composition of copper and zinc, bright and workable, used in ornaments and instrument making. Iron, another pure element, strong and abundant, used as agriculture and warfare. Steel, composition of iron and carbon, exceptionally durable, used in blades making and structures. The smelting process. Smelting is the foundational step in extracting usable metal from the raw ore, a process mastered by ancient Indian metallurgists thousands of years ago. How does this process happen? First, ore collection, furnace loading, high heating smelting, and finally metal is extracted. Ancient Indian furnaces, known as Dmavaranta, used forced air bellows to reach temperatures exceeding 1200 degrees Celsius, hot enough to smelt iron long before European civilization achieved the same. The alloy technology. Ancient metallurgists discovered that combining metals produced materials superior to any single element alone. Two alloys stood out for their versatility and wide application. Common alloy examples are bronze and brass. Bronze is a mixture of copper and tin, whereas brass is the composition of copper and zinc. Bronze is harder than copper, resistant to corrosion, and used for weapon making, tool making, and ceremonial objects. Whereas brass is highly workable, bright golden appearance, favored for decorative items and musical instruments. Now, what is a forging technique? Forging transforms raw metal into precise shapes through controlled application of heat and force. Ancient smiths developed techniques still echoed in modern metalworking. Now we have got the metal. How is that metal going to get a shape? Is the process we deal in forging techniques. First, the metal is heated until glowing and malleable. Then, s- hammer hammering has done. Strike on anvil to shape and compress the grain. And finally, it gets a shape, your desired shape. This is how the forging technique works. Now, heat treatment methods. After forging, metal undergoes heat treatment to achieve the desired balance of hardness, flexibility, and durability. Three key processes defined ancient and classical metalworking. First is annealing. slow heating and cooling to soften metal and relieve internal stress. Then is hardening, rapid quenching in water or oil to increase hardness and strength. And finally is the tempering, reheating hardened metal at a lower temperature to reduce brittleness and add toughness. These are some of the very technical steps that are part of a sculpture making or any kind of tool making. These were done in ancient time, even when there were no use of modern technology tools and no modern ideas were there. So it is fascinating to know how in ancient time the metallurgists were able to make beautiful ornaments, weapons, sculptures, even with limited source resources and limited tools. Now let's have a look at the ancient Indian metalworking tools. There were tongs, there were bellows, there were hammers, and there were crucibles. Tongs used to grip and maneuver red hot metal safely during forging and casting. Bellows forced air into furnaces to raise temperature high enough to smelt iron and bronze. Hammers, heavy hammers, shaped and compressed the metals, and crucibles were the clay vessels withstood extreme heat, used for smelting and mixing metal to create alloys. These were the common tools, very basic common tools that were used in big metalworking processes. What are the applications now? Firstly, the weapons. We all know in ancient India, there were many rulers. Every kingdom has specific customized weapons for themselves. So all those weapons are part of metalworking. Temple structures from north to south India. Every part of the Indian geography has a different kind of temple structure. There is Ayodhya Mandir and there is Minakshi Temple. Both of them have different outer features. The outlook of both the temples are very different from each other. So that was the marvelous of temple structure. Surgical tools. Even when there were no modern surgical tools and technologies, Shrut, the world famous doctor of ancient Indian time, described over 100 precision metal instruments that could be used in early surgery. Agriculture. Even during that time, agriculture was done with tools, and that was how India mastered the metalworking in ancient time. Now, what were the global influence and trade routes? Indian metalwork was highly prized across ancient world. Wood steel produced in South India as early as 300 BC was exported to Persia, Arabia, and Rome, where it was fashioned into legendary Damascus blades. If you know about blades, you must know that Damascus blade is one of the legendary blades of the world. How was it made? It was made through the metalworking of India. That's something we might not be aware about. What were the key exports? Wood, steel, bronze sculptures, copper vessels, and iron implements. Who were the trading partners? Persia and Arabia, Roman Empire, Southeast Asia, East Africa. Even at that time, our exporting was so high. Now, let's summarize the metalworking. India's metallurgical legacy. Ancient India didn't just work with metal, it mastered it, producing innovations that influenced civilization across the globe for centuries. Advanced smelting, alloy innovation, diverse application, and global export. All these sum up to the great metallurgical expertise that India had produced in the ancient Indian time. Now, let's move to the Iron Age in India. Around 1200 BCE, India entered the Iron Age, a pivotal turning point that would transform agriculture, warfare, and architecture across the subcontinent. Indian metallurgists developed iron working techniques that were not only innovative for their time but would influence the entire ancient world for centuries. The famous Iron Pillar of Delhi, standing near 7 meters tall and weighing over 6 tons. The Iron Pillar of Delhi is one of the world's greatest metallurgical mysteries. Forged around 400 CE, it has stood outdoors for over 1600 years with virtually no rust. Imagine something forged around 400 CE, and even after 600, 1600 years, my friends, it has not got any rust over it. Scientists discovered that ancient Indian smiths created a thin protective layer of mesavite, a compound of iron, oxygen, and hydrogen that acts as a natural rust barrier, a technique not replicated in the West until the 20th century. So, this is a live practical example of the marvelous metallurgical genius India has produced. Now let's talk about Wootz steel, India's legendary metal. Wootz steel, produced in southern India as early as 300 BCE, was among the finest steel ever made in the ancient world. Renowned for its exceptional strength and distinctive wavy surface pattern, it was exported across Persia, Arabia, and Europe, where it became the basis of the legendary Damascus steel blades prized by warriors and kings alike. What made India's steel exceptional? Firstly, it was extraordinarily durable. Indian steel held its structure under extreme stress, outperforming most contemporary metals in weapons and tools. Razor sharp edge. High carbon content allows Indian blades to be honed to an exceptionally fine, long lasting cutting edge. Corrosion resistance. Unique forging methods produce steel that resisted rust, a property that baffled metallurgists for centuries. From ore to steel, the production process. From mine ore to smelt ore, then crucible, refine, and slow cooling. Ancient Indian smiths mastered this multi stage process thousands of years before modern metallurgy. Each step required precise temperature, materials knowledge, passed down through generations of skilled craftsmen. Now, what was the crucible furnace technology? Indian smiths placed iron and carbon rich organic materials, such as wood or leaves, inside a sealed clay crucible. The crucible was then heated in a charcoal furnace, fanned by bellows to reach temperature exceeding 1400 degrees Celsius. This sealed environments allowed precise carbon absorption, producing steel with a remarkably uniform and controlled composition, a technical feat that Europe wouldn't replicate for the next 1,000 years. So, this was how crucible furnace was introduced, and how the engineers, the blacksmiths of that time, were able to control the temperature and were able to make things out of this. What was the use of iron and steel in the ancient India? Firstly, it was used for weapons, as we all know, agricultural tools, and architecture. Even today, the architecture of that time still stands held high. Scientific significance, carbon control. The true genius of Indian steel lay in precise carbon control. By manipulating how much carbon was absorbed during smelting, smiths could produce iron that ranged from soft and malleable to hard and brittle, choosing the right type for each application. This wasn't accidental, my friends. It reflected deep empirical knowledge of material science. Centuries before the concept of carbon content in steel was formally understood by Western science. So, if there is low carbon, the material is going to be soft, flexible, and wrought iron for tools. If it is medium carbon containing, then it's going to be strong steel for structural bases. If it has high carbon, that is 1.5%, then it's going to be hard, sharp wood steel for blades. The famous Damascus blade is an example of wood steel. Now, global recognition. The Indians possesses a type of iron that surpasses all others in quality, a wonder of the world. This was what an Arab traveler wrote in his accounts in the 9th century. Indian steel earned admiration far beyond its borders. Arab traders imported wood steel in bulk, calling it lad, and used it to craft the iconic Damascus blades. European knights and rulers prized Indian steel swords as luxury goods. By the medieval period, Indian metallurgy was recognized across the known world as the gold standard of iron craftsmanship. Now, let's summarize what we have learned today. Iron Age began in India in 1200 BC, where iron tools and weapons appear across subcontinent. By 300 BCE, wood steel production was established. It was high in carbon crucible steel exported globally. By 400 CE, iron pillar of Delhi was forged, which is still standing after 1600 years, resistant, free. By the 9th and 12th CE, global peak, Indian steel admired and traded across Arab, Persia, and European markets. So, to conclude, we can say that Indian metallurgists achieved levels of carbon control, corrosion resistance, and steel quality that the rest of the world would not match until the Industrial Revolution happened, a testament of the brilliance of ancient Indian science and craftsmanship. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. I hope you have understood the engineering technology part of the IKS, and it is fascinating to know how the ancient India was way way more technically sounded than we would have now. I mean, अगर आप सोचो, अगर आपको उस टाइम में डाल दिया जाए, क्या आप इतना बढ़िया काम कर सकते हैं? क्या आप इतना प्रिसीजन से काम कर पाएंगे विदाउट एनी मॉडर्न टेक्नोलॉजिकल सपोर्ट्स? आई डोंट थिंक सो. सो दैट वॉज वेरी फैसिनेटिंग टू नो, एंड आई होप आपने भी इंजॉय किया हो. अगर आपने किया है तो प्लीज़ चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर दें. अगर आपको थोड़ी भी हेल्प होती है इससे, प्लीज़ हमारी कम्युनिटी को शेयर करें, लाइक करें, और अपने डाउट्स या अपने कोई भी बातें हमें शेयर करना हो, आप हमें कमेंट डाउन कर सकते हैं. सो टिल देन, keep studying, and we'll meet in another class.